The new A Knight's Tale musical opened recently here in Manchester for a cheeky little world premiere, and on Friday the 25th of April my partner, myself and a friend of ours went to go see this musicalified take on the 2001 film. Now, reviews by nature often include some light spoilers, so if you want to go in blind and you're just looking for someone to tell you whether or not it's worth seeing, then I would say, of course, yes, if you like rock and pop music and you enjoyed the film. It's a great updated version. Songs-wise, it's all sort of fitting in with what you hear in the movie, and if you like a bit of on-stage spectacle, then you'll get plenty of it. If you're happy to hear me talk about things I liked and therefore, tell you what they were, then let me get right into it. I'll preface this now by saying that I didn't re-watch the film before going to see the show. I've only seen it once in its entirety, and it was a couple of years ago now for my partner's birthday, and my partner really loves the original film, whereas I just love a musical, and I also do usually enjoy a jukebox musical, which is what this is. Now, it's a testament to the show that despite it being packed with songs that I genuinely really dislike, I had a great time. Some of, but not all, the songs that were present in the film are part of this musical production's set list. These are We Will Rock You by Queen, the opening hype track, Golden Years by David Bowie, the ball dance scene, and The Boys Are Back in Town by Thin Lizzy when, the boys get back into town. While the songs featured in the film are all from the 1970s as far as I know, the rest of the songs in the musical range from the sort of late 70s period to the early 2010s, but it's all sort of within the rock and pop genres. I recently watched the Robbie Williams chimp biopic Better Man, so I was pretty into it when they were singing Let Me Entertain You to open up the action. The plot. Now, just in case you've never seen the film, the plot is as follows. William Thatcher, son of John Thatcher, is sent off to be a squire for Knight Sir Ector, and years later, just before a jousting match, Sir Ector kicks the bucket, leaving the squires without a knight, and thinking fast, William dons the armour and does the joust himself, winning. Now bitten by the jousting bug and eager to improve his lot in life, change his stars, as he says, William convinces his friends Wat and Roland to keep entering jousting tournaments in order to earn money as fake knight Sir Ulrich. They agree after some persuading, and this sets William on the path to become the champion. On the way, they meet Geoffrey Chaucer, a real-world writer who acts as their herald, and Kate, a female blacksmith eager to prove her mettle. They enter the jousts and start to climb the ranks, and then Will meets a princess and romantic shenanigans ensue, while Count Adhemar looms, threatening Will's place as champ and as romantic hero. Yada yada, plot stuff, happy ending prevails of course. So here's what I liked. I always think a jukebox musical makes its best use of the songs when it's reorchestrating and recontextualizing them. And while I think A Knight's Tale musical does a good job of picking songs that fit the mood anyway, Kiss from a Rose by Seal for when William's working on a love letter anyone, that song is well medieval sounding. I appreciated the reworking in some sections, notably with the last part of 500 Miles, where it becomes a bit of like an angelic chorus as the scene moves into the church, the gospel-y section of Dance with Somebody, and the medievalified Heaven is a Place on Earth. But I think the best use of reworking a song was using the usually romance-coded Celine Dion hit Because You Loved Me in a familial context instead. I was surprised by it, and it did make me chuckle, but from a narrative point of view, I was really impressed with the choice to use that song specifically. And listen, every single time that they hit that bloody song Tub Thumping by bloody Chumbawamba, I felt my soul leave my body. When the crowd was doing a clap along, I was genuinely in my idea of hell. But it's a recurring sort of theme song for William, and I liked the way that it was used, like, narratively. Towards the end, as William's child self appears to remind his present self of the core of his character, I guess, he gets knocked down, but, he gets up again. You're never gonna keep him down. The onstage jousting is so much fun. The horses are just so fun. Presumably the performers are on stilts inside these big horse sort of, I don't know if you call them puppets or costumes, but they're in the horses. And it sort of necessitates the performers to kind of be bouncing around, which gave me a giggle every time. I did find it just a little bit difficult to parse when there were supposed to be impacts during the joust, as understandably the performers can't actually hit each other. I think there maybe just needed to be a little bit more from the lighting to signify a hit, maybe like, it's like a focused spotlight and then maybe like a flash. There was a flash, but there wasn't any focus on them with the lights. I just think we need a bit more of that to really sell the impact. Maybe, it sort of tells me that they were saving the use of light like that for the final joust, because they did back then. But like, babes, you did enough. I think we can spread out some of the lighting everywhere else. And the final joust is definitely spectacular, considering everything else about it. Like, I was not sure they were going to be able to pull off Will unseating Adamar from his horse after they had sort of established the way they were presenting the jousting at the beginning. But for the final joust, like, I was ready to jump out of my seat. I was freaking out. Don't even worry about it, team. Like, the spectacle is there. Plus, there were other joust moments that I thought were good, like the use of interpretive dance, and they do use interpretive dance a couple times, and I do eat it up. Gone are my high school days where dream ballet meant a snowfest. People are using dance in such excellent ways in modern musicals, and I'm really here for it. The costumes. Now, obviously, since this is a movie turned musical, when talking about the costumes, it's hard not to compare what came before, as I do believe A Knight's Tale, the movie, has particularly iconic costumes in sort of the pantheon of cinema. The movie has an intentionally anachronistic feel that allows the medieval story to be, more accessible and relatable to the audience contemporary to its release, and I would say that the costumes do look like what a modern audience thinks looks medieval. And our jousting crew of William, Roland, Wat, and Kate are pretty grounded in that historical look, starting off in their old knight Sir Ector's light yellow, sort of beigey colour scheme, before moving into the fictitious Sir Ulrich's green colour scheme and repping the phoenix crest. I'm no costume historian, but from a narrative standpoint, I do really like the visual changes here that signify the deepening bonds and pride in the characters and sort of what they're doing by enhancing this colour scheme and really starting to wear it a lot. Then, to set her apart, Princess Joseline is instead dressed largely in what I would say looks like contemporary runway fashions of the time that the film was made, 2001, sort of signifying how she's not of William's world and she's a girl ahead of her time who wants to find love in a hottie who's also her intellectual equal. I think her modern for the time, often Asian-inspired 2000s looks kick ass, and I really like the deliberate shake-up. However, in the musical version, the costumes sort of don't set Joseline apart in the same way. Everything about sort of the whole company's look is still intentionally anachronistic in, I would say, a much stronger way than the film. Like, everyone's in bat out of hell coded black leather and demonias, with a style that looks more sports team aligned to me in some ways, which makes sense. Like, it's a sports movie turned musical. Joseline looks sort of like a Tudor royal, so still historical but not medieval. And I'm definitely not mad at it. I think Tudor fashion really just screams opulence to me, but also she looks as punk aligned as the rest of them, which I was disappointed by from a comparison standpoint. Though I imagine if I'd gone in not knowing anything about the film, having not seen how the film looks, I wouldn't have cared. I just think it should be noted that while Joseline of the film looks distinctly not of William's world, from a costume standpoint, musical Joseline kind of seems essentially part of his world right from the start. As William, if I remember right, is in quite a sharp fit from pretty early on, if not like the first scene. It's been a few days now, so it is starting to slip away from me, but I think for most of the first act, he's in this, while Wat and Roland are in these. And this is where I think the colour allegiances between the characters is a bit muddled. We can see that on Will, Wat and Roland, all three are wearing some portions of black and yellow stripes, along with what I think is a phoenix crest, which is the crest that they give Sir Ulrich in the film. So they already have it. They're just going to roll with Sir Hector's crest then. It must have been his. It's a plot point in the movie that they need to change crests so they don't recognise that Sir Ulrich is not Sir Ector. But in the musical, it doesn't seem like they bring it up. If I remember right as well, Wat and Roland do not have any costume changes and stay in these the whole time, while Will gets a different outfit for the dance. In the film, the outfit that Roland makes for him out of, like, tent curtains is green, so Joseline coordinates. I don't think she pulls it off with him. However, since musical Will is already in green, go with orange, and just like in the film, what we next see Will in does not resemble the curtain that it was apparently made from at all. But I'm struggling to remember if this costume is what he then remains in for the majority of the rest of the show or not. From this image that I know is from toward the end, after the prince sort of like releases Will, we can see that he's back in his green, which is his own colour then. like that's the real Will's colour, which means that visually Watt and Roland are never aligned with him, and neither is Kate. Her costume also doesn't change, which is a shame, but I think theatre shows maybe sometimes don't want to do too many costume changes, and I totally get it, especially given how detailed these costumes are. They were probably just thinking, let's get one and done, make something really show-stopping, and then we'll just stay with that. However, I mean, in general, I really do love these punky looks, and I think there's a great cohesion to the look of the company. My standout costume, obviously, the prince. Like, I think this is absolutely lush, re-saturating the colours from the royal crest in the film, or is it history? This was a real prince. And I also really like Chaucer draped in furs. His costume here in the musical feels like an elevated version of his movie look, like really exaggerated. And of course, I love the strong use of heraldry throughout on all of the costumes. So Gabriella Slade, costume designer, despite everything that I said that might have seemed negative, you do get heaps and heaps of stars, like shower them upon you. I love these. Let me get into the performers. Emily Benjamin as Kate looked cool. I think it's easy to come off annoying when you're the I'm not like other girls girl character, but I think she was really funny and charismatic and an absolute vocal powerhouse. Max Bennett as Chaucer is one of the few performers that I thought quite strongly embodied and resembled the on-screen version of the character, with a similar charisma and line delivery as Paul Bettany. His butt looked great though. Much better than Bettany's. And I also really appreciated that even though he entered the show nude, he did have his socks on. Thank you for not forcing me to see male toes against my will Knight's Tale musical. Mwah. Andrew Koshan as William. Certainly he does have a Heath Ledger-esque charm. The show demands an awful lot from its leading man, and I'd say he does rise to the challenge. Ryan Pidgeon as Man in Stocks. I just want to highlight this guy because he delighted me every time he came on stage in those stocks, and I really liked watching him dance around still in those stocks. Emil Ruddock as Roland. This is the character that was played by Mark Addy in the movie, and Ruddock is very committed to the voice that he's doing as this character. He's like, I'm doing like this, every single scene. Jay Seikhal as the prince. I've already said that I liked his costume, but I just want to say it again. This guy was slaying the house down in that incredibly stunning costume. I think he sings like an AC/DC song. He sings Welcome to the Jungle. He kicks ass. The prince is a good guy, and I can have no complaints about him. Eva Scott as Watt. This is the part played by Alan Tudyk in the movie, and I really enjoyed Scott's portrayal. She's very funny in the role, and I think pretty distinct from Alan Tudyk's performance while still being recognisable as the character. One of the other characters, I don't remember which, makes reference to Watt being a gender-bending member of William's troupe. At first, I read this as being a meta-reference to the fact that the actor doesn't match the gender of the character from the film, though my friend read this as suggesting that this version of Watt could be non-binary while we were chatting during the interval. So I tried to pay attention during Act 2, and I think William does refer to Watt as they at one point, so let's tentatively call musical Watt a win for non-binary representation. Anyway, everyone cheered when Watt and Kate kissed, including me, gay rights. Giles Taylor as William's dad. I just really liked when he was ensemble, because that old man was rocking that leather BDSM gear. Oliver Thompson as Count Adamar is literally the standout of the cast, show-stopping. When he was performing the song The One and Only, I ate it up, and I don't even like that song. He makes a great campy villain. I was cackling with delight anytime he was on stage, and he has the absolute powerhouse vocals, like definitely the best male vocalist in the show. He was incredible. He's incredible. Finally, Misha Turner as Joseline is stunning, and I do think very funny. She carries off the whole princess looking for more than compliments about her look thing really well. Here's what concerned me. During Act 2, when the characters are moving through different cities as they follow the tournament, my gleeful enjoyment of the very out-of-the-blue use of Reach by S Club 7 was hampered by what appeared to be AI machine-generated imagery on the banners that rolled by as each location is passed through. Now, I wasn't especially close to the stage, sort of second row gallery, so I can't be certain, and feel free to take this with a grain of salt, but there were several large banners displaying towns like Paris, Milan, etc. But the imagery featured a lot of the hallmarks that I typically associate with machine-generated imagery. A certain rendering style and a very typical colour scheme that you do see in a lot of AI, sort of maybe vintage style travel posters. The posters were like, they were like scenery of buildings, but they were like human characters scattered around this scenery, and then very large, sort of not to scale, typical cultural elements, and like some beer tankards in the German town. And these tankards, they just had it. They had that rendering style that just looked very AI to me. And now, of course, I can't definitively say that these banners were AI generated. Happy to eat my words if it proves to be not the case. But they did stand out as being incongruous with the rest of the grounded, weathered-looking set and costume design of the show. And if indeed they were AI generated, then I consider it very bad form for a theatre production to use them, as there's clearly all this respect being shown for human performance, and then the use of what could be AI imagery would potentially be a huge disrespect to the visual artists who make their living creating scenic design for theatre. Anyway, I do hope to be proven wrong. Please, if you go and see the show, look out for that and try and notice if it sort of ticks those AI boxes for you that it did for me. My hopes for the future of the show. Now, I expect this show aims to do a West End transfer, as Manchester is something of a first stop where shows do premiere before they pop off down south. My fellow Northerners, I do recommend going to see new musicals here when they do premiere, because the prices are way better than the London prices. So with that in mind, I think what I'd like to see tightened up is maybe we need like a little bit more softness to the emotional core of William, as I think he spends a lot of the show just being sort of like blustery and like, the persona of Ulrich the Knight. So then when the whole, oh, here's my dad and I'm singing to my dad thing happens, it kind of felt a little bit out of nowhere. Like, I think we need some more reflective moments from Will and really sort of get into that can I change my stars thing. Also, I mean, Oliver Thompson is so incredibly fun to watch, and I would like to see more of him. He's a well-established performer with absolute powerhouse vocals and the charisma to match, and at times I was feeling like we could have maybe skipped like one of Will or Joss's many songs to give us like a little bit more Count Adamar time. I just want to see more of him because he's fantastic. And finally, I think I would like to see just a little bit of unmuddling from the colour story. The aesthetic of the show does seem to place quite a lot of visual importance on the sports team colours, with Ensemble wearing what looks to be that same black and yellow from the beginning, Sir Hector's colours. So I just feel like it'd be nice to be a bit more intentional with the colour story. And if they really want to make the Golden Years dance colour be orange, then go ahead and make it orange, and make orange the goal that they all get to, and start Roland and Watt in something else so that they can also start putting on these orange costume pieces and wearing the Phoenix crest as the story progresses. Right? So let me give this show a rating out of 5. Some lances out of 5. Let's have it. 3.5 lances out of 5 from me. Go on and go form your own opinion on it now if you're in the position to, and feel free to report back, especially if the original film means a lot to you. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you've made it this far, thank you, and you will see me again if there is another one. Goodbye.